Chapter 11. The Ripple. The Puerto Rican coast near Arecibo shimmered under a September 1976 sky, its waves crashing against black sand and jagged rocks, their foam curling, spiraling, alive, as if whispering the truth Rosa carried. A system of seeds, scouts, and old ones, eternal, indifferent, alive. She stood on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic, her dark hair tangled by the salty breeze, her belly slightly swollen, her eyes red from sleepless nights, her hands clutching her own notebook, its sodden pages heavy with glowing spirals, their chaotic loops a map to a reality she feared, yet couldn't escape. The sea stretched vast, black, hiding the trench, the structure, the god that had claimed her lover, marked him, broken him. His words haunted her. They're in us now, his spiraling pupils, his bleeding spirals, his raving laughter on the beach, in the asylum. Driven by grief, guilt, and a growing belief, Rosa investigated, chasing whispers of UFO sightings near the trench, stories of lights in the sky, shadows in the sea. Fishermen, their faces weathered, their nets heavy, spoke of strange catches. Fish with spiral markings, their scales glinting green, alive, a sign, a summons, a truth that pulsed in the waves, her notebook, the god. The cliff was a jagged outcrop, its rocks slick with algae, its edges fringed with twisted mangroves, their roots sinking into the earth, as if reaching for the trench, the core, the system that waited below. The air was thick with salt and heat, the seas roar a relentless pulse, a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive, echoing Elias's ravings. Rosa's faded jacket clung to her sweat-damp skin, her boots scuffing the rock, her flashlight tucked in her pocket, its beam useless against the daylight but a comfort, a tether to a world that didn't know, didn't care. Her notebook was a weight, a curse, filled with spirals she had drawn, warm, alive, a connection to Elias, the trench, the truth that marked her, claimed her, pulled her into a reality she didn't want but couldn't deny. She'd come to the coast, to the fishermen, to the stories, seeking answers, proof, a way to save her lover, or to understand the god he'd met. Below, the beach was a crescent of black sand, scarred by the sea's hunger, littered with driftwood and nets, where a cluster of fishermen worked, their boats bobbing, their voices low, wary, heavy with the weight of the island's old stories. Luz del Abismo. The light that claimed men marked them, broke them. Rosa descended, her boots slipping on the rocky path, her hands clutching the notebook, its spirals glowing brighter, as if responding to the sea, the waves, the truth. The fishermen, 5 men in faded shirts and salt-stained caps, hauled nets, their hands rough, their eyes darting to her, to the notebook, its faint green glow, their fear a faint echo of the men who'd found Elias, raving marked, a ghost washed ashore. "Senora," one called, his voice gruff, his face carved with wrinkles. "You're the lover, see? The one asking about the lights." She nodded, her throat tight, her eyes searching theirs, hoping for answers, dreading the truth. The oldest, Miguel, his hands gnarled, his eyes dark with something older than fear, gestured to a pile of fish, their scales glinting, not silver but green, their bodies marked with spirals, tightening, alive, pulsing faintly in the sunlight, a sign, a summons, a god. "Mira," he said, his voice low, steady, heavy with the weight of stories told by firelight. "Caught these near the trench, 3 days ago. Never seen such marks. They don't rot, don't die easy. Like they're watching." The fish lay in a heap, their eyes glassy, their spirals curling, glowing faintly green, a mirror to the notebook's marks, Elias's arms, Rosa's dreams. She knelt, her hands trembling, her notebook heavy, its spirals pulsing, as if responding to the fish, the sea, the truth. Her breath caught, her heart racing, her mind reeling, rejecting, yet seeing, knowing, fearing, a truth that wasn't hers but was now, undeniable, inescapable. "They're from the trench," she whispered, her voice breaking, her eyes fixed on the spirals, their glow flaring, a connection to Elias, the core, the god that had marked him, claimed him, broken him. Miguel nodded, his hand crossing himself, his eyes darting to the sea, the waves, the shadows, expecting lights, discs, the trench's glow. "Si, senora." Lights in the water, nights before. Green moving, not boats, not fish, something else. "The abuelas warned us. Luz del Abismo. The light that takes. Your lover saw it, didn't he?" Rosa's throat tightened, her hands clutching the notebook, its spirals glowing, a relic, a truth, a weight that anchored her to Elias, to the beach, to the asylum, to a reality she didn't want but couldn't escape. "He saw something," she said, her voice raw, her eyes wet, her heart heavy with grief, guilt, belief. "He called it the mother, a system, waking to reset everything, eternal, indifferent, alive." The fishermen murmured, their hands gripping nets, knives, their fear sharpening, a chorus of loco, posito, el abismo lo toco, their eyes darting to the fish, the spirals, her notebook, a truth they didn't want, couldn't bear. Miguel knelt beside her, his knife glinting, his voice steady, heavy with the weight of the sea's secrets. We've seen lights, Senora, for months now. Over the trench, in the sky, green moving, not stars, not planes. Boats go out, don't come back. Fish like these marked alive. The trench is waking, like your lover said. You chase this, you end like him, marked, broken, gone. Rosa's hands trembled, her notebook heavy, a connection to Elias, the trench, the core, the god. She saw them, in her dreams, subtle but growing, spirals curling, tightening, alive, a sign, a summons, a truth that pulsed in the waves, the fish, the notebook, the god. She stood, her boots sinking into the sand, her eyes fixed on the sea, the waves curling, their foam tracing spirals, tightening, alive, a mirror to the fish, the drawings in her notebook, Elias's arms, her dreams. The fishermen stepped back, their nets heavy, their eyes wary, their fear a wall, a refusal, a prayer to La Virgin, their hands crossing, their voices low, pleading for protection from a truth they didn't want, couldn't bear. The sea roared, its waves crashing, its foam spiraling, a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive, echoing Elias's ravings, the notebook's drawings, the god's presence. Rosa walked to the water's edge, her boots sinking, the notebook heavy. She saw them, in the waves, subtle but growing, spirals curling, tightening, alive, a sign, a summons, a god. The cliff loomed behind her, the mangroves twisted, the rocks glistened, the sea watched, waited, spiraled. She turned, her boots crunching, her flashlight flickering, and Rosa walked away, the sea watching, the trench waiting, and the god waking, eternal, indifferent, alive. Chapter 12, The End. The San Juan Asylum stood bleak under an October 1976 sky, its concrete walls cracked and salt-stained, its iron gates groaning in the humid breeze, a fortress of despair that could no longer hold the truth Elias Marrow carried. A system of seeds, scouts, and old ones, eternal, indifferent, alive. Inside, the corridors reeked of antiseptic and decay, their flickering fluorescence casting shadows that curled, spiraled, alive, as if the building itself pulsed with the god that had claimed him. Elias, gaunt and wild-eyed, moved through the shadows, his hospital gown torn, revealing forearms etched with spirals, their faint green glow pulsing with his heartbeat, the chant's whisper, the god's presence. His gray-streaked beard was matted, his eyes spiraling inward, pupils twisting like the waves, the core's claim, a truth that fractured him, marked him, made him its own. Driven by a compulsion, a summons from the sea, he escaped, slipping past orderlies, through a rusted window into the night, his steps guided not by reason but by the spirals, the chant, the god. The asylum's perimeter was a maze of overgrown vines and crumbling fences, the jungle pressing close, its cicadas droning, its shadows curling, tightening, alive, as if the trench's glow lingered, watching, waiting, claiming. Elias had moved like a ghost, his bare feet silent on the cracked tiles, his hands brushing the walls, their spirals, his spirals, glowing faintly in his mind, a map, a vow, a language that wasn't his but the system's, the core's, the god's. The orderlies had been sluggish, their rounds predictable, their eyes blind to the truth that pulsed in his veins, his spirals, his soul. A rusted window in a storage room, its bars loose, had been his gate, its jagged edges tearing his gown, grazing his skin, drawing blood that glowed faintly green in his mind, a sacrifice to a god he'd met. He'd climbed through, the jungle swallowing him, its humid air thick with the sea's tang, its shadows guiding him, not to freedom but to the water, the trench, the mother. The beach was a crescent of black sand, scarred by the sea's hunger, its rocks jagged, glistening with algae, its mangroves twisting like the ship's veins, their roots sinking into the earth, as if reaching for the trench, the core, the god. The waves roared, their foam curling, spiraling, alive, a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive. Elias stood at the water's edge, his gown fluttering, his spirals glowing faintly, his eyes fixed on the sea, its black expanse hiding the trench, the structure, the mother, a reality that wasn't human but cosmic, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. His breath was shallow, his hands trembling, not with fear but with purpose, a compulsion that wasn't his but the system's, the core's, the god's, a summons to return, to witness, to spiral into the truth. Rosa arrived, her boots crunching on the sand, her faded jacket damp with sweat, her dark hair tangled, her eyes red from sleepless nights, her heart heavy with grief, fear, belief. She'd been woken by a call from the asylum, the orderly's voice frantic. Elias was gone, the window broken. She'd driven through the night, her hands clutching her notebook, its spirals a connection to Elias, the trench, the core, the god that had marked him, claimed him, broken him. The beach was desolate, the fishermen's boats gone, their nets abandoned, their fear a silent prayer to La Virgin, a refusal of the Luz del Abismo. The light that claimed men, marked them, broke them. She saw him, a lone figure against the sea, his spirals glowing faintly, his eyes spiraling, a lover she'd lost, a witness she couldn't save, a truth she couldn't escape. Elias, she called, her voice raw, breaking over the waves' roar, a plea, a prayer, a vow, her hands clutching the notebook, its spirals glowing brighter, as if responding to the sea, the chant, the god. She ran, her boots sinking, her flashlight's beam weak, trembling, catching his silhouette, his spirals, his truth. He didn't turn, his eyes fixed on the water. She reached him, her hands grabbing his arm, brushing the spirals, their glow warm, alive, a barrier she couldn't cross, a truth she couldn't share. "Elias, please," she said, her voice trembling, tears streaking her face, her heart torn between love and fear, belief and loss. "You can't do this. Come back with me. Whatever's calling you, fight it. You're a father now," she said, rubbing her growing belly. "Not this." But his eyes, spiraling, didn't meet hers, fixed on the sea, the trench, the mother, a reality that wasn't hers but was now, undeniable, inescapable. His laugh, soft, broken, echoed over the waves, not joy but surrender, a scientist seeing the universe's indifference and finding it absurd, profound, true. "Rosa," he whispered, his voice raw, his hands trembling, the spirals glowing faintly, a connection to the trench, the core, the god. "It's not a fight. It's a summons. The mother's in the deep, in the waves, in us, spirals, marks, truths. I'm not running, I'm returning. She's calling, waking, spiraling, eternal, indifferent, alive." His words were a chant, a vow, a truth. Rosa's sob broke, a sound swallowed by the waves' roar, the sea's pulse, the god's indifference, a woman facing a lover who was no longer hers, a witness to a truth that wasn't human but cosmic, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked. "Elias, no," she said, her voice sharp, desperate, her hands tightening on his arm, feeling the spirals, their glow, their truth. "I begged you to stay out of the water. Why go back? What's in the sea? Tell me, please. I'm seeing them, too, the spirals, in my dreams, in the stars. Help me understand." But his smile broke, not his but the system's, the core's, the god's, a mockery of the lover she'd known, the man she'd lost. He pulled free, his steps slow, deliberate, toward the water, the waves curling, spiraling, alive, a summons he couldn't resist, didn't want to resist, a truth that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. The water lapped at his feet, his gown soaking, his spirals glowing brighter, as if the sea was waking them, claiming them, calling them home. "Elias, don't leave us," she screamed, her voice breaking, her heart racing, her eyes wet, a truth, a god. But he didn't turn, his steps steady, his eyes spiraling, his body a silhouette against the sea, the waves, the truth, a witness returning to the mother, the system, the god, eternal, indifferent, alive. He turned to her, his face gaunt, his eyes clear for a moment, not spiraling but piercing, a flicker of the man she'd known, the astronomer, the dreamer, the man who'd chased stars and found gods. "Rosa," he said, his voice raw but steady, cutting through the waves' roar, the sea's pulse, the god's chant. "The ship chose me, not to understand, but to witness. The mother, the system, the old ones, they're not for us to know, only to see. Spirals, marks, truths, they're in the sea, the stars, in us, waking to reset everything, eternal, indifferent, alive." Rosa's sob broke, a sound swallowed by the waves' roar, the sea's pulse, the god's indifference, a woman facing a lover who was no longer hers, a witness to a truth that wasn't human but cosmic, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked. "Elias, no," she pleaded, her voice raw. "You don't have to go. You warned me to stay out of the water. Why go back? We can fight this together. You're a father now, not their witness." But his smile broke, not his but the system's, the core's, the god's, a mockery of the brother she'd known, the man she'd lost. "Fight," he whispered, his voice raw, turning, fixed on the sea, the waves, the trench, and began walking forward again. "There's no fighting, Rosa. The mother chose me, marked me, broke me. I'm not running, I'm returning. She's in the deep, in us, in everything, spirals, marks, truths, eternal, indifferent, alive." The sea roared, accepting him, its waves crashing, its foam curling, spiraling, alive, a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive, echoing Elias's words, the signal at Arecibo, the fish's marks, a god that wasn't a god but a system, eternal, indifferent, alive. She turned, her eyes scanning the sea, the waves, the horizon, searching for Elias, a sign, a hope. But there was nothing, only the black expanse, its green flicker brighter, as if the trench was stirring, the mother waking, the system spiraling, eternal, indifferent, alive. Then a movement subtle, a glint in the water, not foam, not wave, but light, small, disc-shaped, rising, glowing green, pulsing, alive. Rosa froze, her breath catching, her hands trembling, the notebook heavy, its spirals glowing brighter, as if responding to the light, the disc, the truth. The disc hovered, its edges curling, spiraling, alive, a scout, an eye, a fragment of the system, the mother, the god, its glow a mirror to the notebook, Elias's arms, her dreams, a sign, a summons, a truth. It pulsed once, twice, then streaked upward, a silent arc, vanishing into the star-filled sky, its path curling, spiraling, alive, a message, a warning, a truth that wasn't hers but was now undeniable, inescapable. Her heart raced, her throat tight, her mind reeling, rejecting, yet seeing, knowing, fearing. A truth that pulsed in the sea, the sky, the stars, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. The beach stretched desolate, the mangroves twisted, the rocks glistened, the sea watched, waited, spiraled. Rosa clutched her notebook, its spirals a truth, a weight that marked her, claimed her, bound her to a reality she didn't want but couldn't escape. She whispered, Elias, her voice raw, a plea, a prayer, a vow, her eyes wet, her heart heavy with grief, fear, resolve, vowing to warn others, to carry his truth, to tell the world of the mother, the system, the old ones, their spirals waking, watching, spiraling everything into their truth, eternal, indifferent, alive. She turned, her boots crunching, her eyes scanning the sea, the sky, the stars, the disk's path still burning in her mind. A truth that wasn't hers but was now, undeniable, inescapable. Epilogue, the glow. The Puerto Rican sea off Arecibo was a restless void in 1982, its black waves churning under a starless sky, their foam curling, spiraling, alive, as if whispering a truth older than time. A system of seeds, scouts, and old ones, eternal, indifferent, alive. Fisherman Luis Navarro, his face weathered by decades of salt and sun, gripped the helm of his weathered skiff, its hull scarred from years of battling the Atlantic's wrath. The night was heavy, the air thick with humidity and the faint tang of something metallic, not sea but other, a scent that pricked his skin, quickened his pulse, stirred memories of the island's old stories. Luz del Abismo, the light that claimed men, marked them, broke them. His engine sputtered, a low growl fading to silence, the boat drifting over the trench, its unseen depths pulsing, waiting, alive. Then from the water, a green glow rose, faint at first, then sharp, illuminating the waves, the skiff, Luis's trembling hands, a light that wasn't natural but alive, a sign, a summons, a god. His breath caught, his eyes wide as a small, disc-shaped UFO emerged, hovering, its edges curling, spiraling, alive, before vanishing into the sky, leaving him alone, marked by a truth that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. The skiff rocked gently, its engine dead, its hull creaking, the sea's pulse a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive, echoing stories Luis's abuela had whispered. Tales of lights in the deep, of men lost, of spirals carved in wood, stone, flesh. The green glow lingered in his eyes, a ghost of the disk's light, the system's gaze, the old one's patience, a truth that pulsed in the waves, the trench, the stars. His hands, rough from years of hauling nets, trembled as he reached for his knife, its blade glinting faintly, a tool not for fish but for truth, for witness, for a vow. He knelt, the skiff's deck worn, salt-stained, and began to carve, his knife scraping, slow, deliberate, a spiral, its loops tightening, precise, glowing faintly in his mind, a mirror to the waves, the disk, the god. It was identical to the one he'd heard of, whispered in Arecibo's bars, a spiral carved by a madman, Elias Marrow, a name tied to the trench, to lights, to truths no one wanted, a mark that claimed him, broke him, bound him to a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. The trench below was a void, its depths uncharted, its walls pulsing with green-veined filaments, a seed, a core, a mother, alive, waiting, spiraling, a system older than earth, than time, than gods. Luis's knife moved, the spiral deepening, the wood splintering, his hand steady now, guided not by fear but by compulsion. A summons from the sea, the glow, the disk, a truth that wasn't his but was now curling, tightening, alive. The waves surged, their foam tracing spirals, glowing faintly green, a mirror to his carving, the disk's edges, the stories of men lost, marked, claimed. He whispered, "La luz la madre," his voice raw, a prayer, a curse, a vow, his eyes fixed on the sea, the trench, the void, a fisherman facing a truth that wasn't human but cosmic, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. The spiral was complete, its loops glowing in his mind, a map, a mark, a god, a connection to Elias, to the trench, to a reality that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. In San Juan, Rosa Mero sat in a cluttered apartment, its walls lined with maps, clippings, and photographs, a shrine to the truth she'd vowed to carry, to warn others, to tell the world of the mother, the system, the old ones, their spirals waking, watching, spiraling everything into their truth, eternal, indifferent, alive. 3 years had passed since Elias vanished into the sea, his spirals glowing, his voice clear. The ship chose me to witness, not to understand. A lore and father lost, a witness claimed, a truth that marked her, bound her, broke her. Now a UFO researcher, her name whispered in fringe circles, her eyes red from sleepless nights, her hands scarred from digging, searching, chasing lights, signals, spirals. She wore a faded jacket, her dark hair tied back, her desk strewn with notes, sketches, notebooks full of spirals, a truth, a weight that pulsed in her hands, her dreams, her soul. The apartment smelled of coffee and dust, the air heavy with the hum of a radio scanner, its static spitting fragments of signals, not from stars but from the sea, the trench, the god. Her daughter asleep on the couch. Her latest obsession was the Taino ruins, ancient stone carvings scattered across Puerto Rico's jungles, their patterns haunting, familiar, spiraling, alive. She'd spent weeks in the mountains, her boots muddy, her flashlight's beam catching etchings in caves, on boulders, loops curling, tightening, glowing faintly in her mind. A mirror to Elias's spirals, the fish's marks, the disk she'd seen streak into the sky. A truth that wasn't new but ancient, predating history, predating man, predating time. The carvings were identical, spirals, precise, alive, etched by hands that knew the mother, the system, the old ones, a people marked, claimed, bound to a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. Rosa's hands trembled as she traced a photograph, a Taino spiral, its loops glowing in her mind, a map, a mark, a god, a connection to Elias, to the trench, to a reality that wasn't hers but was now, undeniable, inescapable. She opened her first notebook, its pages worn, covered in spirals, a truth, a weight that marked her, claimed her, bound her to a cycle that didn't end, didn't judge, just worked. The radio scanner crackled, a signal spiking, not from space but from the trench, a pulse, a chant, a voice that wasn't human but alive, whispering her name, a summons to a truth she'd died to uncover, a god that was waking, eternal, indifferent, alive. Luis's skiff drifted, the seas pulse a rhythm that wasn't just water but intent, a chant that wasn't human but alive, echoing the glow, the disk, the spirals, a truth that wasn't his but was now curling, tightening, alive. He stood, his knife still, the spiral carved, its loops glowing in his mind, a map, a mark, a god, a connection to Elias, to Rosa, to the Taino, to a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. The waves surged, their foam curling, spiraling, alive, their green flicker brighter, as if the trench was stirring, the mother waking, the system spiraling, eternal, indifferent, alive. He whispered, "La luz," his voice fading, raw, his eyes fixed on the sea, the trench, the void, a fisherman marked, claimed, bound to a reality that wasn't human but cosmic, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. Rosa's apartment was a bunker, its walls closing in, the scanner's static a pulse, a chant, a truth, the photographs of Taino spirals glowing in her mind, a mirror to her notebooks, the fish, the disk, a truth that wasn't new but ancient, predating history, predating man, predating time. She stood, her hands trembling, her notebook heavy, its spirals pulsing, to tell the world, to fight a truth that couldn't be fought, only seen, witnessed, spiraled. The sea's pulse lingered, a rhythm in her bones, a vibration that shook her teeth, her spine, her soul, a voice that wasn't human but alive, whispering her name, a summons to a truth she'd died to uncover, a god that was waking, eternal, indifferent, alive. The trench waited, its depths pulsing, its walls veined with green, a seed, a core, a mother, alive, spiraling, eternal, indifferent, alive. Luis's skiff drifted, the spiral carved, the sea watching, the stars waiting, a fisherman marked, claimed, bound to a truth that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. Rose's notebook glowed, the Tino spirals glowed, the disk's light glowed, a truth that wasn't new but ancient, predating history, predating man, predating time, a cycle that didn't care, didn't judge, just worked, eternal, indifferent, alive. The sea breathed, and the stars waited. The baby sat up. Mama. Rosa looked over, into those deep green eyes made of spirals.